Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is Anish, and I'm here on behalf of the National Law Training Institute. Today, we have a very special guest among us, Pragnya Amireddy, who scored a very impressive All India rank of 4 in CLAT 2024. We all are very proud of you, Pragnya, and it was a pleasure mentoring you at NLTI. We really looked forward to your result, and it was amazing all the hard work paid off ultimately in the end. Even though we were expecting All India rank of 1, it ultimately boiled down to an All India rank of 4. But it's actually great that we get to see you in the top 10. We got to see you in the top 10 list of CLAT 2024 mentors. So, just a brief introduction of NLTI and Pragnya. So, she joined NLTI in June 2023. So, she was with us. She was a classroom student with us for approximately 6 months. And we have Akshat here, who was
Hey,
her so Akshat was her mentor for the last 6 months, and he was there in the last 6 months through Pragnya's ups and downs. He knows her weakness inside out, and he was there to support her throughout the 6 months. We'll learn more about this and the entire mentorship program that we run, and in Praganya's words. So over to you, Praganya. Just like a very basic question. So, how was the CLAT experience for you, and um, did you expect such a brilliant rank, such a brilliant result? And what was your first reaction when you got to know that you have gotten this rank of 4?
First of all, thank you guys for having this interview with me. Honestly, it was a real pleasure, like even being part of NLTI. I think we'll come back to that later. But did I expect this rank? No, not at all. I think one day after CLAT, which was December 4th or something, I remember Anish Bhaiya texting me, "What was your score?" करके. I was, "हाँ, इतना मिल गया." And then at that point, I got a call from Akshat Bhaiya saying, "Oh, this is a very good score. You have a good chance of All India rank 1 करके." So, like when I started my preparation, at least I never really expected it. I never really hoped for it. Also, I was with a mindset that okay, my goal is clear. I want to go to Nalsur or an LSIU. The rank does not really matter to me. I'm gonna my main aim in this exam is gonna be to fulfill. Took a lot of pressure off me. So. Uh, Even in the last 3-4 days, I think I told this story to you guys. So on the day of CLAT, my mom started checking my answer key, and we weren't aware that there were 4 different sets. I got set A, so she checked it with the answer of set B. I was peacefully sleeping on December 3rd. Suddenly, my mom comes in. She's like, "You got 30 marks. क्या किया तुमने पेपर में?" Right, and I,
Hmm.
with that experience, I never really expected a top 5 rank at least. I was hoping okay NLSI हो जाएगा या फिर नाल से हो जाएगा. But yeah, definitely didn't expect this.
Right. So, what was your reaction when you actually told what you are scoring according to the right answer key?
So then, first of all, it was pure. We didn't believe it for 2-3 minutes. I remember
Hmm.
I was sending the answer key to both of you guys, my OMR
yeah,
candidates, to double check it. The same thing happened during the result day. So we were downloading the score 3-4 times just to be like, हाँ हो गया आ गया ऑल इंडिया.
I'll tell you something. When we we were also figuring out when the results will be out from like 9 a.m. in the morning. And I was putting your admit card and your date of birth all the time because I wanted to see your result first because we had such high hopes from you. So even before you saw your scorecard, I believe that I was the
yeah,
first one to saw your score to see your scorecard. And I believe I was the first one all across the country to see your scorecard first because NLT was the first one to announce that CLAT results are out, and we got to know because we saw your scorecard. So it was
Oh,
really great to check an NLTI student scorecard who got an All India rank of 4. So it was really a great moment for me as well, like checking a CLAT result after 3 years. I gave CLAT in 21, checking it in 2023 now. So it was honestly great for me to see someone to see a better scorecard than me. So yeah, that was very great for me. Akshat, what do you have to say about Praganya and how was she as a mentee in the last 6 months?
So, I think one thing about her was that she would never hesitate in reaching you out. I mean, I remember like she would like drop me a text, okay, can I call you at this hour? And I was like, yeah, give me a call. And then she would tell me, okay, what's happening, what's going on with the scores, whatever her problems are. And then she would listen to it. She was like, okay, I'll think about it. And then again, if there's some other problem, she used to reach out. So I think that's something which a lot of mentees don't do, is that they don't reach out to their mentors, and even if they do, they don't listen. So I think that's one thing which she did right. And it also shows diligence, like if someone's, let's say, coming up to you with all these doubts, with all these things that, okay, this is going that way, is this correct, what's seen here, that just shows that they're putting in efforts, right? And they're diligent with their work, and they're consistently doing whatever they've been asked to do. And so I think that's been amazing. Yeah, and I was so happy. I remember I was on my way back from Pondicherry to Bangalore, and then Anish calls me and he's like, "Bro, do you know what's the scene with Pragnya?" And I was like, "No, what happened?" And he tells me your score, and then I text you, and I'm like, "Okay, please let me know what's the scene." And I
Yeah.
mean, I think both of us share that feeling. We were also in a state of disbelief. We were like, "Okay, is this actually true?" So that was
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, it made me so happy in that moment. Yeah. I mean, it's been amazing, genuinely. Like the whole experience, uh, mentoring her, and then the whole experience, getting to know what her result was. It's just been great.
Pragnya, so when you saw your scorecard and you got an all India rank of 4, did you feel disappointed? Because I think I was the one who was constantly telling you that
Yeah, same,
you
same.
might just be
Yeah.
the all India rank 1.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I'll tell you, I did not hear any score that was higher than you. So honestly, believe me when I say that for the for since the answer key came out till the CLAT results came out, for 5-7 days, everybody at NLTI believed that we got our first All India rank 1, and Praganya is gonna get All India rank 1. I couldn't even believe that this is All India rank 4, because I couldn't believe that somebody could get higher than 104.75 in this exam. So what was your reaction when you came to know, oh, you dropped by 3?
So honestly, even when I got a score of 108 in the provisional answer key, I was always expecting ki, there might be someone out there who got more than me. Uh, I was the type of student in all the mocks which I gave, uh, barely used to get a rank below 100, barely. So, and that too would change over time. So, 1 week I would check it, it was 50 something. Next week I would check it, it would go to 150, 200. So, for me, when you guys texted me saying, okay, this is a really good score, you might be AIR one, neither me nor my mom actually believed it. Um, so, yeah, when the rank 4 ka result came, there was like 5 seconds. Oh, if I got AIR one, if I
Obviously, yeah.
bubbled in those two questions, शायद हो जाता. But then again, I
Yeah.
was like, AIR 4 मिला है. Like, this is enough type of thing. In the sense that my
Yeah.
mom was happy, so I was very happy.
So, Pragnya, when you texted me your provisional score back then, I went up to NLTI's backend portal and I checked up your scores in the last 5, 6 NLTI mocks. And I saw that you were constantly scoring rank 1 in those 5, 6 last NLTI mocks. So that really made me believe that, okay, what OMR I am saying is actually correct. And she might just be the one to get an impressive rank this year. So yeah, it was really great when I checked the NLTI portal and actually saw your name up on the leaderboard, and saw you getting all India rank 1 in the or like NLTI mock rank 1 in the last 5, 6 mocks. So honestly, tell me, Praganya, what was the best advice that Akshat gave you in these last 6 months?
I think the number one advice which I always hear him saying to everyone is don't go behind YouTube. And second is don't stress about scores. And I honestly thank you so much for that advice because
You're welcome.
at some point, like in the past 6 months, everyone was going mad over CLAT. This was a very new format. No one knew what was going to happen. The sample
Yeah.
papers were a complete toss. Like GK really bugged me a lot, especially in those sample papers. Uh, so at that point, there was a lot of different strategies on YouTube. Someone was saying do this, someone was saying the opposite. So it did get really hectic at some point. I called Akshat, but I was like, तुम burnout में हो, take 1 week off. And I think that really helped. And second thing was, So when the pattern changed, the first time CLAT announced it,
Yeah.
the first mock I gave after that, it was an NLTI mock. I got a score of 40.
Hmm.
So at that point, I was like really stressing on my scores. I need to get 90, I need to get 80. And those 2-3 months at least, my score was stuck in 50, 60, fluctuating between. Wait. Once I stopped stressing on my scores, and it was more like, I want to do well in QT. I want to do my best in GK. I think those scores really improved a lot. And that is when you saw those last 4 or 5 mocks,
Hmm.
sorry. The last
Yeah.
2 months, a lot. Like, in the sense that I stopped stressing over scores. It was more like, I am genuinely interested in this passage. I genuinely want to know what's the
Yeah.
answer. And I think that really helped me a lot.
Very fair. So, what was your first reaction when you saw this year's paper? Like you entered the exam hall, you opened the question booklet. So, what did you perceive of it? What was your first thoughts when you opened the booklet?
So on the day of CLAT, actually, I woke up feeling really tensed. I didn't tell this to anyone, but at some point when
Hmm.
I woke up, my hands were shaking. वो सब हो रहा था. Then I decided, nahi, I prepared properly. This is my dream of 2 years. Chill karo thoda. I started listening to Marathi songs. I know it's a blocks. Amazing.
Yeah, you told me about that, I think. She's
Oh, she'll be back. She'll be hopefully back.
yeah.
Her internet is quite shaky, no?
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll
Wait,
text her.
I'll check, I'll text her.
Yeah. Were you able to reach out to her?
I've texted her. Um,
Hmm.
let's see.
Yeah.
She hasn't responded.
Oh, she's here. She's back.
Is there? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think my laptop also started blacking out when I told it, yeah, 4 aa gaya.
Hilarious. Yeah. So, you were telling me your first reaction on the CLAT day. Yeah.
Right. So my entire thing was so my center was at a college which is like 1 hour away from my home. So I had to wake up really
Hmm.
early to make it there. And that 1 hour, I was listening to full beat Marathi songs on the way there. So there wasn't really any thought going on my brain. It was more like music was numbing everything out. And I think
Hmm.
that's one of the best things you can do on CLAT. You either be the most arrogant person there, in the sense, I am the best here, I know everything type of person, या फिर you just don't feel anything.
Yeah.
And when I saw the paper, uh, so the first thing I did was check what type of passages there were. I was really hoping we'll get something like sample papers because those passages were genuinely interesting.
Hmm.
But yeah, then I saw these logical passages which were like not true sa. And in
Hmm.
NLTI mocks and other mocks, the passages were 2, 3 pages, not
Yeah.
two, 1.5 pages long.
Yeah.
So there was an initial disappointment saying that, easy paper de diya inhone. Maybe I prepared for almost 2 years, 6 months. Maybe it would all go to waste. But then I just remember this one mentorship session which Akshat took like barely 2-3 days before CLAT, where he was like, "Agar paper easy aaya, to overthink about it after the exam." So I think that was the mantra: fake it till you make it. That just worked out actually.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, yeah, that's great. So that was one of my advice. Ki just walk in with a lot of confidence. If you have nothing to lose here. I mean, when you're like walking into the exam hall, you have nothing to lose. So tell us, like, what was your reaction after you got done with the paper? Like, what did you do? What was your first thought about? Ki chalo ab
Uh,
khatam hua, finally done with it. What was it like?
so my exam got over at 4, right? My first thought
Yeah,
was I was hungry, obviously.
yeah, obviously.
So I really wanted to
Fair.
get some food and all that. And then I slowly went out. I saw all my friends who got the same center. We were talking, paper was very easy, this, that, that. There was this tiny bit of disappointment that, इन्होंने सैम्पल पेपर इतना अच्छा बना कर दिया, फिर क्लैट में ऐसा कर, cutoffs are gonna go very high. My initial thought was cutoff for NLSI was gonna go to 100, genuinely. At some point,
That actually came true this time. Like the cutoffs
yeah,
were around 9900. Yeah.
yeah. So that was there. Then I was like, okay, fine, we'll see what's gonna happen. I did my best. I am happy with this. And then again, same thing. Put songs, go home. Numb it out.
Right. So, but after you completed the paper, did you have in mind, oh, I've got this in my hand. Uh, I just need to select the number one
I
college that I,
actually did.
yeah.
Um, so I didn't tell my I didn't tell my
Pragnya, your internet is a bit
parents. They were
shaky. Do
at
you
the
mind?
center with me because I knew that when the consortium gives you such I'm so sorry about that.
Uh, can you shift
Yeah,
to
now it's
another
fine.
internet connection? But now it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, good. I was saying that, I knew that I did the paper well. Like, I gave my best, sab ho gaya. I knew that there is a very good possibility I will score 100 plus in this particular paper. But I didn't want to tell my parents that. I didn't want to get their hopes up. So I went like with a really sad face. Mummy, ho gaya paper. And then the car was just
Hmm.
near. So I again put earphones, went to sleep. Like, I don't
Right.
know about it. That's when they started checking the paper. And that's when the real panic set in. But
So you
yeah,
didn't tell them that
I
you
didn't.
might actually get such a great rank and the paper went so well for you.
Yeah, the first time I told them, I think, was when you guys texted me. Till then, I did not tell them at all.
So even after you checked your answer key and you got a provisional score of 108, you didn't tell them. Right.
Nice.
So
I just, like, in the worst possible case, I didn't want to get there.
fair. Makes sense. But first tip for CLAT 25 aspirants, when you go to your CLAT center, please listen to Marathi songs on full volume and don't feel anything else.
Yeah.
So, Praganya, this time the GK section was very easy. Like people said, they could find answers in the passage itself. So, did it throw you off, or did you feel even more confident that one section that might dread you in mocks, or you might not be scoring so well in GK in mocks, that actually came so easy? So, how did you react to that?
So I think one good thing was I was really confident about my GK. Not really confident, but confident enough that I covered all the basics. If the consortium was gonna pull a trick like it did in the sample papers, go very in depth, ask questions which you probably would not know the answer of, even if it was given for a
Yeah.
UPSC, stuff like that, there's a very good possibility that I can answer the basic questions. So I went in with that confidence, and it was honestly disappointing when I did see that paper. Because GK mein subjectivity is supposed to be very less, and
Yeah.
here we had a paper where you could read the answers in the passage, you could guess the options. It was, I guess, like for the first 10 minutes a little disappointing in the sense that I prepared so hard. Ab kya hoga? But after that, it was pretty chill. I had like 3 other sections to complete, so I didn't
Hmm.
think about it. First, right after GK, I started doing QT because I knew that I had to give my brain some exercise to just to make sure that it doesn't go off track. Thinking,
Right.
just because they gave the GK section so
Hmm.
easy, they will give the English and the logical section that easy itself. Yeah.
Right. So I'll come to a little boring stuff now. So what was your section-wise strategy for CLAT 24? Like, how did you go about preparing for, let's say, comprehension? So that would cover logical and English. So how did you prepare for RC and CR?
So for logical specifically, I would say first cover the basics and which is your basically what is an assumption, what is an
Hmm.
inference, stuff like that. Then for English, one thing which really troubled me a lot was the vocabulary part. Um, I mean, my vocab is fine, but if you give me like really complicated words, I wouldn't be able to guess.
Yeah.
And even poetic devices, literary devices, stuff like that. Tones and all, I think if you go through if you go through any document which tells you what each tone is, I think
Yeah.
you're set in that. But
Hmm.
things like these, your poetic devices, literary devices, vocabulary, your basics, stuff like that is something you need to work on for a long time. And after that, it's all a game of practice. It depends on how much you practice, what type of passages you practice.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Praganya, I am sorry to interrupt you here. So, a lot of students say that now that the pattern is changed, the base core CR theory does not really matter a lot, like assumption, negation technique, what are conclusions, how conclusions are different from inference, let's say. But what is your opinion on this? But what I am catching is you say practice and core theory, learning the concepts are equally important. So, is it right that you first need to focus on the theory part of it? You need to know what an assumption is, how do we negate assumptions, how do we differentiate between a conclusion and an inference, and then we practice on that theory to ace the CR section basically.
I mean, so if your aim is to get like bare minimum marks in logical section, you can go ahead without the basics. That's what I used to do
Hmm.
in my first like 3, 5, 10 mocks. I
Hmm.
genuinely did not know what the basics of CR were. But if your aim is I need to get the maximum possible marks out of this, you do need to take every advantage you get. And I think learning the basics, maybe of course you won't get direct questions like what is an assumption in the actual CLAT paper, but it will help you in eliminating options. And even if you manage to eliminate 2 options, you have a very good chance of answering that question right. So I think
Right.
it will take you barely 1 or 2 days. Spending those 2 extra days just on the basics, I think, is worth it.
Right. So what was your strategy for GK? Like you said, you had a very good hand over GK and you thought that it was one of your strongest sections. So what was your strategy for GK section?
So my GK strategy actually changed a lot. Startings, I
Hmm.
used to just do Manthans या फिर Clat Post, other magazines, go through them. I did not revise DK at all starting 3 months because I genuinely didn't feel like I had to. And after that, uh, then the panic started setting in when the sample papers all came out, the questions types came out. So that was when so there, my strategy was take the major topics from any monthly magazine. So, for example, Israel Hamas, and I had this amazing study group where we basically made a Google Docs and started covering each and every topic. And I think that really helped because one, all our GK stuff was double checked by 2 or 3 people, so we could ensure its validity. And second thing, it didn't have a lot of pressure on each one of us individually because it was a team, it was a group effort, and everyone was doing their part. Third thing was you had very different viewpoints, you could say. At some point, we were covering it so extensively. So if I give you a topic like Israel Hamas, if you go to our doc, you will see the timeline. You will see the major important people. You will see books on Israel Hamas were, which won Pulitzer prizes, which won um, International Booker
Hmm.
Prize. you will see Nobel Peace Laureate's ka name, which is related to Israel-Hamas war. You will see India's foreign policy on that. You will see US's foreign policy. You will see important accords, stuff like that. So I think the best thing for GK is go down the rabbit hole, search up those links, read extensively, read as much as possible. And I think you can do that only if you have enough time. This was one major concern for me, particularly. It gave me a lot of headache in the last 1 month, especially. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you start early enough, I think GK is something you do not need to be worried about.
So basically, start early and do not be afraid of going into that rabbit hole where you actually research on a topic because you find interesting and not just studying it from the exam perspective. Because CLAT, from for the last 3-4 years, has not been testing very conventional topics. It has been playing around and seeing whether you have that street smartness and whether you actually study for CLAT because you have a particular interest in studying law and related concepts and not just
Yeah.
cramming the GK part of it. Yeah.
And I think it also helps in the retention. So once you take an interest in a particular topic and research about it on its own, it's easy to remember things as well. Because you found them yourself rather than, mugging up a
Yeah.
magazine or something like that. So I think that also helps in retention, right? So Pragnya, I have a question for you. I mean, so would you recommend an LTI to your juniors and basically people who will be appearing for the future CLAT exams? And what do you think was the best thing about us? So, what's your take on this?
I genuinely would, because like Anish Bhai told you in the starting, I found NLTI 6 months ago before CLAT. And at that time, my scores were very bad. Very,
Yeah.
very bad. I think one good thing was the mocks, especially. The RC passages and CR passages were so tough. The joke in the NLTI groups was, if you ever feel overconfident about Elise, CL, or all these other mocks, write an NLTI mock. You will see where you stand at.
Yeah.
Because, and I genuinely appreciate that level of difficulty there. We had passages from old English literature, stuff I never even heard about. GK was also like, idhar se le liya, udhar se le liya. Starting, it was actually very frustrating, but later on, it did help a lot. Making sure that I was able to read lengthy passages, make out the common points, etc., etc. Especially the legal part. That is something I genuinely liked in all the NLTI mocks. And I think that was the one section which was like perfect every single time. I think you guys took it from your legal courses there. But yeah, that is something again.
Yeah. What about the mentorship? So our USP
Of course.
currently is that we are run by NLS students and we get you in direct contact with students who have appeared for CLAT. So how do you rate our mentorship program that we run at NLTI exclusively by NLS students?
Of course, that was definitely a unique selling point of you guys. And I mean, like Akshat Bhaiya told, there were many times I called him up at 10, 11, or terrace में जाके I used to call being, भैया मेरे मॉक्स में स्कोर्स नहीं आ रहे, भैया मेरे जीके में सेक्शनल स्कोर्स नहीं आ रहे, मेरा क्यूटी खराब जा रहा है. I didn't get more than 0 to 4 in the first 20 something mocks I gave. And that too in the most easiest mocks possible. So I think Bhaiya, the mentorship session really helped me a lot, in the sense that I was able to figure out what I need to do. I was able to implement on that, not just planning it. So yeah.
Right. So we'll wrap it up this interview now. One last piece of advice that you would want to give your juniors who are appearing for CLAT 2025 next year.
So I think, as we saw this year, CLAT is always going to be there with a I won't say a major thing, but at least luck is going to play a role in it. And the only
Yeah.
way to negate that luck aspect is to work hard enough and work long enough. CLAT is not about, studying from Subah 8, say, 10 tak.
Yeah.
I never used to do that personally. But it is more like you practice so hard, or you become so confident in yourself that you know that even if I get the toughest paper on earth, मेरा होगा, सबका नहीं होगा, होगा नहीं होगा, I don't care. मेरा तो हो जाएगा.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes
So,
sense.
Right.
yeah, start early enough so that you can give yourself that confidence on the day of CLAT. I started 2 years ago. I did this much stuff. I actually had this tracker on my in my room where I used to mark. So it started from 40s, then 50s, 60s. Each month it would increase. Right now, I think the highest score I got in my mocks was 97. So I think you should do something like that where you monitor your progress and you use that as motivation to fuel you. So yeah.
Right. So this is something that I always say, CLAT is not a sprint but a marathon. You need to constantly work hard, you need to persevere, you need to break a leg, and that only then you will be able to achieve success in this exam, because it's not something like IIT JEE where you cram
Right.
a concept or you cram the books in like 3 months and then you will do well in exam to get a good enough college. But it's more about practice, more about grasping what the CLAT exam is demanding from you, how to interpret a passage, how to develop your reading skills over time. And that's what CLAT is. So I'm sorry, I'll ask just one question, because this is a question that a lot of aspirants ask when they start preparing for CLAT. And this is whether they should start appearing for mocks right from the beginning, like if they're preparing for, if they are starting their preparation from January, should they start giving mocks from the very beginning, or should they clear their concepts for at first, and should they first uh, let's say develop a reading skill or develop a reading ability and grasp CR concepts, and then start preparing for appearing for mocks?
So the thing I did was the first mock I gave, I did not have any idea about the basic concepts, and this was back when we had mocks of 150 questions. My first
Yeah.
clue, where I attempted all 150 questions, I didn't know there was a concept of negative marking. That is the thing where I started from, and I got 70 in that. So I think it's a simultaneous process. You need to give your first mock to figure out which sections you are weak in, and that is when you need to start building from the basics. You Before you start actually implementing your plan, you need to have a clear plan saying, ha, mera QT
Yeah.
weak hai, so I will do these things here. I will give at least 1 hour daily or half an hour daily if you're starting from 1 year or 6 months. Or my GK is very weak, so I think I should give 2 3 hours here daily, that type of thing. So first I would say give a mock, give 2 3 mocks, figure out your weakest sections, cover the basics in that, and then improve with each going mock. So if you find out that my assumption questions are going wrong, go back to the basics, learn mocks again. If you find out that my percentage questions are going wrong, go back to the basics, do sectionals, mocks, stuff like that.
Right. That's a great piece of advice, Praganya. So that's it from the session today. Thank you, Akshat. Thank you, Praganya, for taking out time. And congratulations again for this brilliant rank. Uh, I'll not lie, it was an absolute pleasure to have you today with us, and it was an absolute pleasure to mentor you for the last 6 months. I wish I could stay in a little more touch with you for the past 6 months, but I'm glad that Akshat was there whenever you needed him, and he was there as your mentor, as your best friend for the last 6 months. So thank you so much, everyone, whoever will be watching this session going forward. Please reach out to me or Akshat or anybody at NLTI if you would want to enroll in our courses. We'd love to mentor you for the next 12 months and see you on the other side of NLTI taking this interview next year. Thank you so much, everyone. Good night. Have a great night. Bye bye.